Isn't that so interesting? I love the way that you put that. It's not isolated. It's
Yes.
not isolated to that incident or just that one person, but it's much greater. It's the entire energy all surrounding it, kind of like Liz just said, like a few minutes later, what happened next?
Yes.
Right? There was a blossoming, or, maybe a constriction.
Hi, I'm Liz Larson.
And I'm Bill McKenna.
And together, we created the Cognomovement system. And we'd like to welcome you to the New Life Perspectives radio show,
where we're going to be sharing with you tools, tips, and ideas that are going to change your life.
Hello in UK Health Radio Land. I'm Liz Larson, and I'm here with my friend,
Bill McKenna.
Hey, Bill McKenna. And we're the host of the New Life Perspectives radio show here on the UK Health Radio Network. And we just happen to be the team that created the Cognomovement system. And today we have a very special guest. This is always really fun for Bill and I when we get to have our friends on, people that we know well. And today our guest is Christy Whitman. And Christy Whitman is a New York Times bestselling author 2 times over. I had to think about that for a sec because I was going to try to say 2 times New York Times. Anyway, I got it. And she's a master certified law of attraction coach, but that's only a little bit. That's only the beginning. So I'm going to toss it over to Christy. Christy, tell us the rest.
Well, there's a lot. Hi, Liz. Hi, Bill.
Hi.
Thank you for having me on. Hi, everyone. I've been on this journey for 28 years. And really, the thing that changed my life is learning about the universal laws. So I have become an expert in talking about the 7 essential laws. And in 2008, I started certifying coaches. So I've certified over 3,000 life coaches, law of attraction coaches through the Quantum Success Coaching Academy. And in that, I've always just worked with energy. I've always, in the meditations I've done, I've just always been someone that gets energy and sees the subtle energy and knows how to play with it and work with it. So I'm an energy healer. And through that journey, I also became the messenger for a collection of beings called the Quantum Council of Light. So I do a lot, and it's all about mastering our energy. So thank you for having me here.
Oh my gosh. So everybody across the world, Christy Whitman, I think what you're going to love about this interview, we've had the honor and privilege to get to know Christy, and she's the real deal. When we talk about manifesting, right, there's people who run their mouth and say, this, that, and the other thing, and this is how you do it, but they haven't actually lived the principles. And Christy, one of the things I love people that actually, the rubber hits the road and they got the cred, they've done it, they've been there. Christy's manifested cars and houses, many countless houses. I don't know how many, but just countless, and established over 3,000 other people to do the work successfully. Not only that, but she lives it. I've witnessed her actually living it. So anyway, I'm very excited about this interview because there's a wealth of information here, and I want to open the fire hose and start letting it flow. Christy, we could just start with, what are the 7 essential laws?
So I'll just list them. And then if there's any of them that you want to go deeper with, let's do that. Most people, if they've heard of universal laws, heard of law of attraction because of the secret, right? But there's more than just the law of attraction. So there's law of attraction, there's law of deliberate creation, law of allowing. My favorite, which pulls all of these laws together, is the law of sufficiency and abundance. There's the law of detachment, the law of polarity, and the law of pure potentiality. So these are the 7 essential laws. Then, as I said, the law that is like, oh my God, 7 laws. I thought law of attraction was more than enough to focus on, right? The one that literally pulls them all together to make it easy is focusing on the law of sufficiency and abundance. And so this is my favorite one to talk about. This is the one that totally changed my life because I grew up in a middle-class family. My mom and dad had wonderful experiences and very, very wealthy friends. And we got to go to different, wealthy places and dinners and things like that. And my mom and dad were always in a place of lack. My mom was always, oh, this person's so this and this person's so that, and they've got this and they've got that. And it was never enough what my dad was providing. So I grew up literally mired in having a lot of wonderful experiences, but never appreciating them because I was in lack. And so my journey began on I call it my conscious journey because we're, conscious spiritual journey because we're always on a spiritual journey. But I remember after I graduated college, I moved to Chicago and I had this moment of, wait a minute, I graduated from college. I've got this really great high paying job. I've got money in the bank. I've got my body. I've got my, this guy I'm about to marry. Why am I unhappy? And it was that, is this all there is? And for me, no matter what I accomplished, no matter what I did, no matter who I was, no matter who I was with, it was never enough. And so when I learned the difference between lack versus abundance, and that we're attracting from either lack or abundance, that's when I started really getting the nitty gritty. So anytime we're in a place of comparing ourselves with others, we're in lack. Anytime that we are looking for what's wrong and bad, we're in lack. Anytime we feel any type of lower level emotion, whether it's fear, doubt, frustration, disappointment, any of those emotions, it's coming from a perspective of lack. And lack is us pushing against or literally misaligning with who we really are. Because this universe and we are evidence of abundance. Just the breath we take, the cells that we have in our bodies, the amount of heartbeats that our heart beats every day. We're literally living, breathing examples of abundance. And if you even look at how many billions of people are on the planet and the fact that the stars in the sky are the galaxies in this universe, we have so much evidence of abundance, and abundance feels good. So if we feel bad, we're in lack. If we feel good, we're in abundance. But there's a skipping point because most people can't jump from lack to abundance. So think of it as like 3 buckets, if you will. Like the bucket of lack doesn't feel good, right? The next one over is sufficiency. That's where contentment, that's where compassion, that's where we're not over the moon excited about something, but we feel okay. We don't feel bad, right? And then the third bucket is this abundance, that's where joy and passion and purpose and freedom and all the good feelings, all the pleasurable experiences are. And when I learned how to navigate not only my thoughts or my words or my feelings or even the things that I do, is it coming from lack or is it coming from abundance? Do I feel good or do I feel bad? That's when my life started to change. And when I started teaching this to other people, their life started to change. And really, when you're focused on and aligning with abundance, you're working with law of attraction, you're being a deliberate creator, you're in that space of allowing, you're definitely in that space of detachment, you're connecting to pure potentiality, you're understanding that there's polar opposites. All of the laws come together when you practice that one.
Wow. This is really good stuff. So if I could, tell us about, most people out there are like, the law of allowing. What is that? What's that about? And how does that relate to the things that either happen or don't happen or happen like on automatic pilot or through our intentional creation of something?
So great question. Law of allowing is where we feel open, we feel receptive, we feel good, right? It's like instead of resistance. Like what I always like to say is contrast happens. This is a law of polarity. This is where in this third dimensional reality, you've got people that are nice and you got people that are rude. You got, things wanted and things that are unwanted. You've got emotions that feel good. You got emotions that feel bad. Contrast happens because there's so much going on. There's so many different opinions. There's so many different possibilities. So contrast is one thing, but pushing against contrast or resisting the contrast, meaning I don't have enough money, and instead of pivoting to what would having more money feel like, we push against and we get worried and we fear. That's pushing against. So we're not in an allowing space. When contrast comes up, meaning what we don't want, and we get into a place of understanding, okay, what do I want? Why do I want it? How do I want to feel? And then getting into that energetic feeling, that essence, we're in essence allowing. So allowing is being open. It's like if you ever have come across someone that you need to feel, you need to protect yourself. Maybe because your mother, your father, your sister-in-law, some brother-in-law, mother-in-law, someone that you just feel that you're not safe around. We tend to, like a turtle, go into our shell. A lot of times we can close down our heart to that person. But what we're not doing, or what we are doing, is we're closing down our own connection to our divine. And so allowing, someone to be who they are and have the opinions that they have, we have the ability to stand up and create a boundary, but it's like, my mom is who my mom is. And I can either resist her and try to change her or push against her, which I've done most of my life, or I can just realize that that's who she is. I mean, it was just something silly and stupid, right? We were at dinner last night, as a matter of fact, and took my mom out for dinner and took her to a place that she's never been before. And she's like, oh yeah, I told you about this place, which she didn't even know about this place. I'm the one that told you about this place, right? And so I could resist that and go, Mom, you've never heard of this place, and get into an argument with her or push against that. And I'm like, oh yeah, huh, Mom? Because what does it really matter, right? Am I going to push against and then get into an argument, which has the potential of ruining the evening? Or could I just let her be right, because that's her being in her lack of, I need to be right. I need to feel important, right? I'm the one that told you. So it's like, oh, okay, Mom, that's allowing, because it's like, I'm not letting her consciousness affect my consciousness.
So, all of that is well and good sounding, right? The work that Bill and I do, we know that the nervous system creates an automated response. So most of us, it's like, wait a minute, what? No, and you can't help it before you know it, the words are already out of your mouth. Or if you're me, it's on your face already, right?
Right. Yes. Mine too.
Right. So it does take some time for a person to get to the place that you're talking about, that really being able to allow and let people have their opinion or have their thoughts. We were talking off camera about a way that people really can begin. And you said it has everything to do with words.
Yes. Our words have power. It's like our wands, right? It's like what the words that come out of our mouth, the words that we say to ourselves, it creates a vibration, like everything, because, we are energy receivers. We're receiving in energy all the time. We're energy containers. We're holding energy, and then we're transmitting energy. So we're energy transmitters. And the words that we say, either out loud or to ourselves, are like sparks of those waves that go out. And when you really think about it, the words that we say create thoughts that we think, which then interplays with our emotions, right? All of that is like sending vibes out. And the thoughts that we think over and over again, that creates a belief. And we look at a belief and go, see, it's true. And then it solidifies a belief. And it all starts with our words. I mean, it said, even in the Bible, in the beginning, there was the word, right? What we speak things into being. And so a lot of times there are words and phrases that we say and don't even know the power to constrict us, to not be in that space of allowing, working against the law of allowing. And, my mom, for example, she's a perfect example. She says words all the time that are so based in lack. I mean, I could have a conversation with her and she'd be like, should, shouldn't, and shouldn't. And the problem is shouldn't. It's like there's just all this negativity and constriction about what she says. And that should, for example, is one of the words that are in a program that we're going to talk about in a minute, called Watch Your Words. And when we say I should do something or I should have done something, we're literally beating ourselves up. We're creating a negative energetic connection, sending waves out that are constricting, which then creates our reality. And there's nothing we can do about it. And we're limiting the unlimited by saying those words. It's like putting us in a box that there isn't other possibilities. We get into the drama triangle with that. We create drama and chaos and struggle and, suffering from that place of, oh, I should have done that, right? Or you should do this. Nobody ever likes to be should on.
No, they don't. And it's so automatic. And there are, like you said, so many things we don't even consider. One of our amazing practitioners, when she first came to class with Bill and I, probably the third day of the class, was an online one during COVID. She had on a t-shirt and it said, my body is like a Greek temple. And then below it said, ancient, crumbling, and probably cursed.
Oh,
yeah. Right. So I said, I'm kind of thinking maybe that shirt needs to go. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I said, look at what it said. Well, as it turns out, she had a lot of issues with her body and several surgeries scheduled. So words really matter. So let's take a quick break here and we'll pick up on that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that when we come back. So for right now, let's hear from the good folks at the UK Health Radio Network. UK Health, take it away. And we're back. We're with Christy Whitman, and we were just talking about really how much words matter and how little we actually realize that. And I was sharing with you about this t-shirt and our practitioner about the crumbling temple and her physical crumbling body.
Yes, those words, and especially when we wear something, like there's more people wearing like high positive vibes, things like that, love and love matters. And, these are things that when someone looks at them, we're projecting good feelings, right? But when someone's saying about themselves on a t-shirt that my body is crumbling and it's ancient, these are words. Words have power because they have meaning behind them, right? They have a vibration behind them. It's an interpretation. And our consciousness is what creates everything. And what is our consciousness? When you really break it down, it's what we say, it's our words, our language, it's our thoughts, what we think, it's our feelings, it's our perspective, beliefs, images that we have in our head, and then what we do. And so that's the first part of it, is the words that spark it. I'll share an example. During lockdown, I was hearing everybody say, I miss going to a soccer game. I miss getting my nails done. I miss getting my hair done. I miss seeing family. I miss traveling. Miss. And every time someone said that, everybody would feel like, I know this sucks, right? It was just this like downer. And I remember going to my husband, I'm like, you know what? I really miss going on a date with you. And I went, no, wait a minute. That's one of those words. And I said, I really look forward to going on a date with you. And he goes, let's go on one right now. So we left the dog, we left the kids in the house, and we went on a park bench in our area that we lived in. And we just sat there and talked. And it was like our own little date. And I said to him, I go, you know what? I really do look forward to going out for dinner, because that's something that he and I love to do. We love going out to really nice restaurants. And I said, I really look forward to going out for dinner with you. Now, this is at a time when nobody knew when the restaurant's going to be opening. And I said, where would you want to go? Out of all the restaurants in Scottsdale, where would you want to go? So we started talking about it. We were having this very creative, lovely discussion about, and getting salivating on these different foods, and ooh, the rolls over there, and ooh, they've got lobster bisque over there, and just having this incredible creative conversation. And then it led to, well, would you want to go with another couple? Because we've been kind of seeing a lot of each other, right? It may be nice to see some friends. Who would we? And we started talking about all of our great couple friends that we have, and finally landed on my cousin Natalie and her husband Tim, and said, okay, great, we're going to go here with them. Da da da. And I got so excited, I had to run back in the house because I was like, what am I going to wear? And I like ran back in my closet. I started picking out my outfit with the shoes, and I had this perfect outfit just sitting there for quite a few weeks, right? Before anything even opened up. But every time I went in my closet and saw this outfit with the shoes, the purse all ready to go, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so looking forward to this. So, that created a totally fun night. And when I put that dress on and put those shoes on, we went to that restaurant with Natalie and Tim. I was more in appreciation of that moment in that restaurant at that time with those people than I have ever been of all the zillions of restaurants that we've ever gone out.
Yeah, it's so true. It can be so generative. And I think maybe people might think, oh, you're going to have Pollyanna language and you only say nice things. But there are little things I think we can do that we don't realize we have this a pattern around that are not generative. Years ago, I was going through some training and I heard myself when someone gave me a compliment. Now, I'm not good with those, just so everyone knows. And
Liz, you're fabulous.
Right? So I, would find myself, if someone gave me a compliment, I'm a person who wears a lot of bright scarves and colors, and people say, oh my gosh, I love that. And I would find myself answering with some kind of a self-deprecating reply. And never really paying attention to what the other person, what they look like when I said that. So one day it occurred to me. So I started playing with this idea. So if someone would compliment, a scarf or something, I would say, oh my gosh, thank you so much for noticing. This is my very favorite color. And I would watch, and the other person would just light up in having been recognized for giving a compliment. Now, I didn't say, yeah, I do think I look fabulous in this, but I acknowledged that they noticed me and that I also did love the color, right? So I played with this for even just a few months, noticing the reaction and watching the person walk away. Usually it's like a grocery store somewhere, and then noticing what they look like maybe 10 minutes later. Noticing them having a lovely conversation with maybe the cashier or someone else. Noticing that my little bit of acknowledgement made a difference for them. So our words really do matter in how we respond and what happens next. It can be very, very generative.
It is, absolutely. Because you think about it, what does it feel like for you if I had two soccer moms actually on the sidelines a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about how their husbands, one said, I was having a conversation with Mark and we're talking in the bedroom, I'm changing. And, I took off my bra and he just couldn't even keep his mind, he couldn't carry on a conversation anymore. And she's thinking, what is wrong with you? You've seen these things 1,000 times. And I said, why would you want him to ignore you? That's, it's she told him, what is wrong with you? You've seen these 1,000 times. I go, he's acknowledging you. You took off your bra. Would you want him to ignore you? And she was telling him, you're crazy for even paying attention. Right. And it's when we're giving a gift to someone, when we're acknowledging them, when we're finding something pleasurable and someone tells us that we're wrong for being pleased by it, or we're wrong for giving that compliment, the other person feels bad. So it goes both ways. It's when you're acknowledging someone else giving you a gift. If you were getting so excited about giving someone a gift for a party, a birthday party or a shower or something, and you took time to think about it and you wrapped it and all that stuff, and they take it, open it up, and they're like, oh, and then they put it to the side, it's a gift for the giver. It's a reciprocal. It's like breathing in and breathing out. When you acknowledge someone for taking the time, for using their funds, their abundance, to give you something, and you're thanking them for that. And even words, right? You're thanking them for acknowledging you, thanking them for paying attention to you, right? It goes both ways. Everybody is left feeling good. It's a positive, uplifting experience. But when you're downplaying it, when you constrict, that's that law of allowing again. When you constrict, the whole energy constricts. Everybody constricts in the presence of that.
Isn't that so interesting? I love the way that you put that. It's not isolated. It's
Yes.
not isolated to that incident or just that one person, but it's much greater. It's the entire energy all surrounding it. Kind of like Liz just said, like a few minutes later, what happened next?
Yes.
Right? There was a blossoming, or, maybe a constriction, But,
Yeah.
I love one of the things that Liz said, and the way she phrases is, I get to, not I have to,
Yes.
or I'm gotta go, blah, blah. I get to. And I think that really puts such a powerful spin, right?
It is. That's one
I
of the
get
words.
to.
That's one
Oh,
of
is
the
that one of
words.
the
It is one
words?
of the words. Yeah. Because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, oh, I have to go pick up my kids. No, you get to. You have
I
kids to go
get
pick
to.
up.
I
It's
get to.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I get to wash the dishes. As strange as that sounds, but imagine if you didn't. Imagine if you didn't. And there are lots of people who don't get to
That's it.
these days, especially. This is so fascinating. Tell us there is all of this is, ultimately fascinating, I think, for everybody that's listening to this globally. And that is because everybody as a human being wants. That's just our nature. Whether we want the new girlfriend, the new boyfriend, the better body, the new car, the new house, or an experience. I want to climb Everest. I want to go to this school. I want that. I want this job. These are all our dreams and our hopes and our wants and our wishes. And you said something, the very first one, and it was the law of deliberate creation. Now that really, when I heard law of deliberate creation, I'm like, I like that. Let's hear about deliberate creation, because that's what we want. We want to not have things that are just kind of happenstance.
Right.
And all of us feel like we're, like at the winds just push us this way and that way. We don't feel like we can actually deliberately create without tremendous effort, right?
Absolutely. And that
So tell us about that.
Yeah, it goes along with what both of you do with Cognomovement. It's that feeling of I desire something, and that's what I wrote about in the desire factor. It's I desire something, and when we desire something, it's life-giving. Nothing gets created unless we have a desire. We could sit here and notice that we're hungry, right? But until we have the desire to get up and go get some food, nothing happens. The universe that we live in would not have been created if there was not a desire for it to be created. But this idea that I want to feel good, or I want to feel pleasure, right? But that whole reactivity, being reactionary instead of responsive, a lot of times we're reacting by default. We're reacting from our traumas. We feel like, and Liz, you were talking about that too. We have this reaction and, we have this like look on our face, right? Because something shocked us or something happened. And when we can deliberately choose our emotions, choose our thoughts, choose our perspective, now we're not creating by default. We're creating with absolute intention involved. So let's say this, right? A bill comes in. And it's not Bill McKenna, but a bill comes a bill for something we weren't expecting comes in, right? And if we're feeling stressed or we're feeling like we don't have enough, we're already taking that vibration out into the universe of lack of money, lack of resources. This bill comes in and then we're stressed. So that signal that we're giving out to the universe is more lack, don't have enough, don't feel good. But when we stop and allow ourselves to feel abundant, if I have this bill, I also have on the other side of it the abundance to pay this bill, even though it may not be true, even though your a checking account might not show that you have it. When we start to connect with, wouldn't it be nice to have enough money that when unexpected bills came in, I could easily pay it? That shifts our perspective. That shifts our energy. That gets us deliberately creating what we want now by feeling that and in the future. Because the law of attraction responds to everything that we're vibrating. So if we continue to feed that and fuel that not enoughness, it's going to be like a mirror and it's going to keep bringing us the same thing. But the minute we deliberately, consciously, on purpose say, you know, I would love to have an abundance, an overflow of money. I would love to feel what it feels like to know that I have more money coming in than going out. I would feel so free. Wow. I would feel so stable. I would feel so whatever it is. I would feel so good. Just our attention on that for a couple of minutes changes the vibration from, oh God, I don't have enough. What am I going to do? How am I going to pay this? Totally different vibrations.
It's really true. And as words matter, you said a word that I use all the time for not just for manifesting, but for life. You know, because what Bill and I do is we cut the line and we change the way our bodies feel, right? So we can be in that neutrality, but it's the word choose. So we need to take a break, but when we come back, let's talk about that word choose. So let's hear from the good folks at the UK Health Radio Network. UK Health, take it away. Okay, so we're here with Christy Whitman. We're having a great conversation about words mattering, law of attraction, and we ended the last segment about the word choose. So I'll tell you how I use it. So I am a person who used to be, my preset was frustration. I love ideas. I'd have an idea, but I would be mad 2 minutes after the new idea because I'd be frustrated that I didn't have that idea 2 weeks ago and wasn't 2 weeks further along in having that idea, you know, come to life. So I realized for myself that reaching out too far into law of attraction would generate frustration. So I decided to choose just the next thing. So I look at it this way, like shiny thing right there, and I can turn my little scooter and head that direction. Well, then that choice will lead me to another choice and another choice and another choice. And I end up somewhere I couldn't even have dreamt about in the first place. So using the word choose rather than want, for me, changing that word out really made a massive difference. And when I combined it with getting to neutral physically, you know, feeling neutral or better on that thing that I chose, I found that I could really rapidly create and create and create. What do you think about that?
I talk about the drama triangle, which most of us are, you know, raised, and you look at drama triangle is something that in the 60s, Stephen Cartman brought to the psychological game that we all play. And when you really look at it, it's like there's 3 roles that you can play. There's the victim, there's the rescuer, or there's the persecutor. And most of us are playing those roles all the time. We play them in our families, we play them on our businesses, our cartoons, our fairy tales, our comic strips, Broadway plays. Songs are built around someone's done me wrong. If it's a good country song, you know, I'm the victim, this person God done left me, and you know, all this stuff. And so when we are noticing we're playing one of those roles, which never feel good, even if we're playing the good guy, the rescuer, you know, I'm gonna save everybody and I know better and that sort of thing. The victim never wants to be helped. So the rescuer ends up being the victim, and on you go. It's a very closed system. But what gets us out of that system is by saying, I choose. When something happens and we perceive a problem, or someone is acting in drama, or they are, you know, doing what they're doing, we can then choose. I choose this. I can look at what my options are. I can either ask them for help. If they don't want help, I'll just back off. I can ignore them. I can go pay attention over here. I could do this, 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 and this. What is the best thing that I can do that's loving for myself and others? And then I choose that. Choice gives us freedom. It's in God gave us, right? The divine gave us free will and choice. And that's when we can literally decide, I have the freedom to choose how I'm going to react in the situation. I have the freedom to choose how I'm going to respond, what I'm going to say, what words I'm going to say. That's when we are empowered, because that's when we get that sense of I am free. And when we start to understand that, I mean, it took me years and years and years to actually go, wait a minute, I can choose how I feel about this. I don't have to get upset about that. I can choose to still feel good about this and change my perspective. That is freeing. It's absolutely freeing.
Wow. Well, that changes everything, doesn't it? When you that changes everything. Gosh, wow. Those choices that you make. Tell me about the steps. Like, somebody has, like all of us, all day long stuff's happening, right? And we have these automatic reactions where we're like, no. So tell us about the steps that you walk people through to help them to make that new choice.
Yeah, so here's a great process. My husband and I actually do this, and we function really, really well together now. Didn't so much in the beginning of our relationship, because it was like, there's the problem, right? Oh, great. Yeah. This thing happened. We have the schedule all set, and now this happened. And now, like there's this, what do we do now? And focusing on this is the problem. And I grew up, like I said, my mom still to this day, well, the problem with that is that, and this is a problem, and the problem with this, and everything's good with that, except for this is a problem. So it was such just ingrained, there's always a problem. And when I started, being the messenger for the council, first thing they came in and said is there are no problems, only perceptions of problems, right? Think about that. Like if you looked at something that happens and you don't look at it as a problem, you look at, hey, there's some solutions. That's what we automatically do. But to get there, what we would do is say, okay, here's the situation, not problem. Here's the situation. What are our options? And he and I would literally sit down and write down sometimes the most ridiculous solutions, but we would say, hey, let's get my mom and dad to pick them up. They don't have a car. Hey, let's see if we get this babysitter. Hey, you go here, I'll go there. How about we split up? You take care of one kid, I'll take care of the other. Hey, would we need another dad to pick them up? Just listing out all of the different possible solutions. And then we would look at it and say, this one feels the best. Let's get Jeff to pick them up, or Maxim can go here and we'll go there, right? We figure out of all those options that our minds can think about, this is the best solution. Now we don't even have to do that, right? We'll just go, hey, this happened and oh, but he wants to do this. So we can't be two places at once. How do we do this? Well, let's see what the solutions would be. And then we start listing those out. It has literally made our marriage, our entire piece inside of our family. Everybody can get what they want. And yet there's solutions for everything, so that we don't feel like, no, we can't do this because there's only one of us, or, we both got to be at the same place at the same time. Solutions always will appear, and our consciousness can open up to them as long as we're willing, big key word, willing to look at them. But most people get stuck on the issue or the problem and look at it as a problem. And then again, the energy is stuck. There's no opening, there's no allowing, there's no possibilities, because that's a problem. Our words matter.
It's so true. And it's the old adage of law of attraction, what you focus on expands. So if you're problem oriented, you're going to find more problems. If you're solution oriented, you're going to find more solutions. So there is a lot that goes into making that switch, though, in your mind, and well, Bill and I would always say in your body, to start to shift that, right the ship, if you will, like to go towards solutions, to be thinking in solutions oriented, or to be looking towards what you would choose. So we were talking about there's a challenge you have, starts on May 15th. It's free for everybody, that actually will help them begin the process, because it is a process. If you're very, very negatively minded and there's another option, but you just don't know how to do it, a person needs some support, some ideas of how to change out words or thoughts for something else. So we tell everybody about that, about the 10-day challenge.
Absolutely. So I created years ago, and it's been really just amazing for people to go through this, a program, and you can go to watchyourwords.com for that. And the challenge is because we want to start getting people more practical tools and processes that they can do, because like you said, it is a process. Things can happen overnight, but a lot of times for most people, it's a fine tuning. It's a shifting a word. I've been doing this work for almost 3 decades now. And just the other day, and I've got a pretty healthy relationship with money. And the other day, all of a sudden I had this shame that came up about not having money. And I was like, where did that come from? And all of a sudden I had a memory of when I was 24 years old. I got in debt, and my grandfather came to my rescue, but he also shamed me. He said, if you mess up, and he didn't use the word mess, he used the F word. If you mess up, you've lost yourself a grandfather. And it was very, very shaming, right? And who knew that was there? But all of a sudden, at this different level in my life, I was able to clear that. That for me is still a process, right? So having that awareness of these words helps us become aware of our thoughts and our beliefs and the underlying energy. So it's always going to be a process. But this challenge is here for 10 days, starting on May 15th. And if you missed the first day or two or whatever, they're recorded. So you'll be able to go into the site, go to watchyourwords.com, and just opt in, and you'll be taken to the challenge. And it's going to help you with practical tools, and not only what to say, why you don't want to say it, but what to say instead, and how to then implement that. Because there's still people that might have listened to the video and are still shoulding, or still saying, well, I can't afford, or, I have to do this, or some of the other things, right? Some of those other words and phrases that pull our energy down. This is going to help you fine tune.
Yeah, and it's so needed. I don't think I could reiterate enough that people have to have somewhere to start, and then you start to practice changing the words. But it's not only changing the words, it's about noticing how people react to the words that are said.
Yes.
So you notice how it feels for you to say them. Like when I realized I could say, oh my gosh, thank you so much. This is my favorite color as well. I just love it. I noticed that my heart warmed a little. And I also made myself be aware of how that was received. And then in the receiving, it would always start this little interaction. I wear a lot of purple. And so it would people say, I had an aunt once who used to wear purple all the time, and she was the most fun. Or, I like purple too, but people think I'm crazy. This fun little interaction. So it's about playing with it. So I really encourage everyone who's willing, and this is another one of those words, if you're willing to consider changing your words around a little bit, starting to play with this, take this challenge, start to get some ideas of how you can make that shift for yourself. And it really is infectious. But I wanted to ask you about another practice that I started, and something my mom said to me years ago, something about wanting your eyes to light up when they walk in the room. So I think she was talking about us kids, noticing who walks in the room, but I took that to heart. So I always play with things. I'm an experimenter, a mad scientist. And When my kids would walk in the room, I would make sure I stopped what I was doing, looked up, looked them in the eyes, let my eyes light up. And then I would say usually something a little silly, like, oh, hello, my darling. Or, oh, there's my handsome prince of a son. Or, look at my gorgeous daughter. If my husband walked in, I would say, oh, there's my big man. They always laugh like, oh, mom. But what I noticed is that if I didn't say it, my son would be like, mom, like I just walked in the room. What are you doing? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And they would look forward to, even though sometimes I would say it a little silly, it made a huge difference in the stopping and noticing, intentionally using the words. So what do you think about the intention of the words as well?
Oh, intention is everything. I mean, we are initiators, right? It's like pure potentiality. The energy and all the universe is there waiting to form it into something. And we are partnering, we're co-creating, we're collaborating with this energy. And when we intentionalize something, when we have an intention on something, that energy then goes into creating it. So just even having the intention of having your family feel good, right? That's really the intention, right? To know that they're special, to have them light up. I mean, that's the form that you have done in that big intention. And it is interesting because I'll do the same thing. If my husband walks in the room, I'm like, hey, gorgeous. And I could just see him go, oh, me? Yeah. Hey, it's the same thing, right? Or Maxim I'm like, hey, there's my sunshine. And he'll go, you're only sunshine, and he'll make up the song. And so it's really important what we intend for our entire life inside of our families, in our businesses, with our money, while we get in our car, before we start driving, well, before we even go to bed. I mean, intention is everything, because if we are creative, and we're breathing creation and creativity, then we're the ones that guide and flow that energy towards everything that we're in relationship with. And we're in relationship with everything: money, success, our careers, accomplishments, every single person, the tree, the plants, the beautiful butterflies that you have outside of your house, Bill. I mean, we have relationships with everything, and our words start those relationships.
Wow, that is so true. That whole thing of like, I remember, just to a point, was I was talking with one of my sisters, and I was talking about one of my brothers that I love very much. And I was like, I get to go see Frankie today. I get to go see Frankie today. And you could tell that she was kind of like, oh God, well, I love him too. And that's really good that you get to do that, but it's a different energy. Or I'm going to go to dinner with Frank, but it's a different energy, right?
Yes.
You feel it. So that sets it up, that ripple effect. I wanted to ask, by the way, everybody that's listening to this around the globe, 25,000 people have been through this. It's watchyourwords.com.
Yes.
Right?
Watchyourwords.com.
25,000 people have gone through that course. It is a change your life type thing, and it's free. Go out, sign up, get it, go get it. Okay. Go on, get it. All right. But before we go, I want to make the most out of this time with you, this special time with you. Sufficiency and abundance. Now, I have a concept around that, but as I heard one of these 7 laws that you're talking about, sufficiency and abundance. Tell us about that.
Well, when we can come from a place of where I am right now is sufficient, because most people are not there. I want to be somewhere else. Where I'm at right now is not enough. I have this desire to be over there. But when they're desiring to be over there or to create something that they don't have, they're usually in lack. So I don't have what I want, but I want this, and there's too much of a split. So as you're get it, yeah. So as you're coming from a place of what I have right here, I'm appreciative of. I have enough. It is sufficient. It's not exactly over the moon what I want, but I could be sufficient in finding the positive aspects here and get excited for what else is coming.
Ah, I love the down to earth way that you explain that. So think about that. Everybody, if you're listening to this right now, just think, are you in a state where you feel sufficient? Or, and there's every aspect of life, right? There is the, with your boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, you feel sufficient there, right?
Content. Are you looking for the positive
content.
aspects, or are you looking for what that no good dirty dog didn't do?
Yeah, right. Or it could be with your body, or it could be with any aspect of your finances, you name it. But that's a real good way to start your challenge right there. Anyway, Liz, I know we got to go. We
got to go. We got 1 minute, and we are going to continue this conversation in our after chat. If you're listening on the UK Health Radio Network app, we're going to close for now, but follow us anywhere that you like to listen to your podcasts. Look for hashtag Wellbeing Podcast or the UK Health Radio Network or New Life Perspectives Radio Show. Or you can find us on YouTube at Cognomovement for this extra after chat with Christy Whitman. For now, everybody, please go out to the watchyourwords.com. And we'll say thank you so much, Christy, for being here with us. This was an amazing conversation. And for everybody else, we'll see you on the flip side in the after chat. Until then, everyone in the UK Health Radio land, be safe and be well, and we will see you again next week. Hey, everybody, we're back with the extra chat with Christy Whitman, author extraordinaire. And we are talking about that words really do matter. Not just words, but the intention behind them, how we use them. So in the after chat, Christy, we like to get a little weird, and talk about some of the more fun stuff. I wanted to shift just the tiniest bit to the topic of self-talk and the words that we say to ourselves. At one point in my life, I became aware that I was talking to my own physical body in a way that I literally would not talk to a trash can.
Mm-hmm.
Like outwardly, I considered myself a nice person, kind to everything. Like I would go over and just kick the crap out of a trash can for no good reason. But I was using words like that on my own body, recognizing that we're made up of these billions of cells, and to your cells, you're the voice of God. And I'm basically telling my cells, you are worse than anything there could possibly be, just the worst, right?
Yes.
Which is ridiculous and silly and all of that. So changing that for me made all the difference in everything. But will you talk about that a little bit from your perspective and the words matter?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's funny you say that, Liz, because I remember when I moved to California and I was really seeking, this is again 28 years ago, and I went to go and get my hair cut. And this woman had just like this effervescent, bubbly personality. And she just had something different than anybody I'd ever met. And I said to her, I'm like, what do you do? Because it was like that, when Harry met Sally moment, I was like, I'll have what she's having, right? Because she just had this joy about her. And she said, I meditate. Now, I didn't know anybody that meditated. It wasn't internet. We didn't have the internet like we do now. There was nothing that was in my mind of a meditator other than this guru guy with a long beard and white, hair sitting on top of a mountain oming. And so when this like hip, chick from San Ramon, California was saying she meditates, I was like, what? I mean, talk about paradigm shift. So I said, she goes, I can introduce you to my meditation teacher. So she was, giving me the phone number. If you remember those really big cell phones, right? I'm dialing it that as I'm leaving the salon, leaving a message. And I think it was about a week later that Melanie got back to me, and I went to her house and it was like clinky clinky new age music and candles and incense and, statues of angels all over the place. And I am like, what? I did not grow up like that. I was like, where am I? What am I doing? And she had me sit on a cushion on the floor, not on a couch or, regular furniture. And I sit down and she looked at me deeper into my eyes than anybody has ever looked at me. And she said, you create your own reality. And I knew that. I was like, oh, it's true. Like something in me already knew. Yes, I do. And then my mind kicked in and went, how? And she said, you're either repelling things to you or from you or attracting things to you based on the way you think. Now that was my big, like my way I think, my thoughts are my thoughts. I'm my thoughts. Right. And she could see that I was like blown away by the thought of that the idea that my thoughts weren't my own. And she said, so I have an assignment for you. I want you to go home and I want you to just pay attention to your thoughts. And I was like, okay. Right. So I would walk by a mirror and cut myself down at least 10 different things. I was fat and short and cellulite and I was the scum of the earth walking by that mirror. I was ugly, I wasn't this enough. My hair wasn't this enough. It was like totally. I mean, I could slash and slay within seconds. And I remember calling my best friend that I've known since I was in 7th grade. And I said, Dawn, I am so negative. And she goes, what are you talking about? She goes, you are the nicest, kindest, most bubbly person I've ever met. And that was even worse to hear that because I was like, well, then what the heck is happening from my head to my mouth? How come I'm nice to everybody else, but I'm so mean to myself? And that's a rule that we now have in our family. Nobody is allowed to call anybody a name, even if you're joking. Because when we say, I am lazy, I am fat, I am, I'm no good, I'm not enough, any of those things, it is causing that to happen, to feel that, for that to become our reality within the very cells that we have. As you said, you're God to those cells. You're the commander of what we want ourselves to do. And so as I started becoming more positive to myself and saying things like, hey, good job. Wow, you're amazing. Hey, that you know what? That was a really good session. You're an amazing coach. As you know what? You're an incredible mom. You're an incredible wife. You really did that really wonderful thing. You're really generous. You're very loving. The cells all just feel good, right? It's like anything. That's the book that Emoto wrote about the hidden messages of water. We're pretty much all water. So why would that be any different for our bodies and what we say to our bodies?
It's really not. This is fun. If everybody's listening, you can try this. We aren't even aware of what our body's doing all the time. So if you pick one cell, and I always like to pick the cell at the very end of your toe, just one cell, and notice everything that it does. If it's a cell on the outside of your skin, it keeps, all your stuff in your body, right? Keeps your blood in, keeps your water in, all of that. But it also helps the nerve feel, right? If it's a toe cell, it helps with your balance. Like our toe cells are so important. So if you just took even one and thanked it for its service, like we do military people, like, oh my gosh, cell, thank you for your service. It's amazing. Your whole body lights up. It's like, wait a minute. Did she just
get acknowledged?
Did she's talking to us? It's amazing. And it just even one little cell. So that self-talk, if you consider you're not really only just talking to you, your consciousness, but there's billions of little universes.
Yes.
It starts to change everything, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Bill wants to show us something.
I just wanted to share this. Emoto, he was gracious enough to let me borrow these, and this is you fool, and this one over here is happiness, and this one over here is let's do it. So you can see kind of the difference in between all of these images. And what he did is he froze water. He would put a particular intention into it, and then he would freeze, and he'd look at it under a microscope and took pictures. Anyway, tons of work there. But what he's saying is absolutely true. And like the good feeling that you get when, somebody sincerely looks at you and, it's like really appreciate it and you feel it, right? That's what's happening inside your bloodstream. I mean, every molecule is responding. So it's really amazing. But I wanted to, because this is our special time, our after chat, the after party here, something strange things happen at after parties. At the after party here, you discovered something amazing about that intention and the brain. You called it something like a pleasure place in the brain that you had.
Right before you do that, you guys, Bill was showing, if you're not watching us on YouTube, for those who are listening on radio, he was showing the book, The Messages in Water from Dr. Emoto. That's what he was talking about. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what he was holding up and showing. It's a picture of water crystals that have had an intention put on them, I guess, for lack of a better word. And the ones that are the words that are more positive are these beautiful shaped crystals, and the ones that are not look destroyed and even discolored. If you have not seen that book, go out and get it. It is an incredible book. So sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure everybody on radio knew what we were talking about. So Christy, you had asked her, we're asking her a question about the brain.
Yes. So Bill, actually, we just did a podcast on the Desire Factor podcast, and your episode came out today. So we talked about that too. And I'll tell you how this came about. So like I said, I bring in the messages. Some would call it channeling. Some would would say I'm downloading, but I receive messages from the council and do healing sessions and courses and things now with them. And my son, Alex, who at the time was 13, he was in gym class and his friend did a backflip, who knows how to do a backflip. And my kid, having the confidence that he has, thinks, hey, I'm going to do a backflip too, even though he does not know how. He's never attempted one before. He doesn't put a mat down or anything. He decides to do it outside in grass, so it's kind of hard surface. And he didn't make it. He actually hit the back of his head and ended up having a good 30 minutes of just being totally unaware that what was happening. Ended up in the nurse's office. And when he woke up, he was in shock of where he was. So clearly had a concussion. And so who do I call first? I call Bill. And so Bill started working with him. He is totally absolute better than fine now. And at the same time, I brought in the help of the council. So as I was holding his head and I was channeling the council had never looked at a human brain in this way before, because they hadn't really had access to holding someone's head like that. And they were tinkering around going, hey, there's pleasure centers in the brain. Let me see what happens. And they started to reactivate, as they like to say, because they're activated when we come in. That's why babies are like, ooh, like, this is fun. Let's go do this. This looks like it's pleasure. That looks like it's fun. They're so trained to be in pleasure and to do things and to experience things, whether it's putting a toe in their mouth or whatever, these things bring me pleasure. And so we learned some things along life that this doesn't give me pleasure. And that didn't feel good. So I want to avoid this thing again. So that, like we're talking about, and like we were talking about on the show, that becomes our focus. Let me avoid this pain because it didn't feel good, instead of being able to look for what brings me pleasure. And so it's like a teeter-totter. The council realized it's like when one's up, the other one's down. If we're more focused on avoiding pain, we're not focused on looking for pleasure. And so they were able to, holding Alex's brain, reactivate the pleasure centers. And then all of a sudden, things started opening up for him, of course, with the beautiful collaboration with Bill and Cognomovement and doing that work together. But they started doing that with other clients. And I had a client that said that he had lost his sense of smell and his taste because he had COVID, right? just after doing the reactivation of the pleasure centers in the brain, he got his taste buds and his smell back. That was like the first like instant, thing that we saw. One woman that said she hasn't laughed in probably decades. She started laughing and got so giddy. She was doing the stomach pain laugh with tears coming down. She says she's laughing all the time now. I mean, other people are like just the different things that they are focused on and now that they're creating because it's been reactivated. And so by doing that, and we start thinking about what brings us pleasure, talking about what brings us pleasure. One woman started cooking again because she didn't feel the need to do that. And because her husband cooked, and why do I need to do that? He's doing all the cooking. But she realized, cooking actually, it's therapeutic for me. I enjoy doing that. And so there are things that we start to do that are different in ways that we look at life when the pleasure centers of the brain are reactivated.
That is so interesting. So is this something that you can do? What is it? You do it individually or you do it with groups? Or have you ever tried to do a group? Have you tried to do it with even people that you don't even know, like on YouTube, as like, watch this and I'm going to set my intention and do it? Or how does that work?
We do it in private sessions and group sessions. So we just did a workshop this past weekend where the council was talking about the 4 aspects of our divine design, which is well-being and wholeness, abundance, success, and loving and supportive relationships. And so we were taking sections of those parts of the divine design, and in each section, they were reactivating as it relates to, and they're going deeper and deeper. Like today in a group, they were, I have Sacred Circle of Light, which is the kind of more energy, so you can like advance, but it's more of a intimate, committed group. And they were connecting the power center with the pleasure center. Because when you think about it, some people feel that having power or noticing others that have had power, when you think about those in power, that gives them fear. And if it's fear, we're pushing against something, we're avoiding that pain versus being in pleasure. And so reactivating even just different centers, like the pleasure center with the power center, the power of pleasure, the pleasure of power, being powerful. I mean, it's a different world. So yeah, they do it in different configurations like that.
I think there really is that connection makes so much sense that when you're in pleasure, and not just momentary, like not just the bite of ice cream, right?
Right.
But actually in appreciation, some people might call that gratitude, willingness, choosing. It really does feel like power, especially because you're not in victimhood.
Yes.
You can't really be in gratitude and be a victim at the same time. It can't, if you're choosing for yourself and creating your life, it really can't be someone else's fault that you don't have what you want. So just back to for a minute that the words matter. Being in a state where you are wandering around in your own beautiful creation, even if it's imaginary, is better than being in a state where all you're doing is maybe bitching about your family members, right?
Yes.
So this is that shifting of intention in a way. My husband and I noticed this years ago. We'd be in this pattern where we'd go, we'd spend Saturday together, doing our shopping. And, you drop into like this old pattern of, who's a pain in the butt, some issue that's been going on, or rehashing some problem from the past. And it's so boring. What's that saying? That what ignorant people talk about other people, average people talk about things, and intelligent people talk about ideas. Is that I think that's the saying.
I've never heard that, but I like that.
Yeah, I want to say, don't quote me, but I think it's.
I think it's the low level is talking about gossip and people, and then intermediate was talking about events like, the game, or the company, this, that, and then high level is, ideas, like Liz says, is, big concepts and ideas.
I kind of think, and don't quote me on this, but it might have been an Einstein thing because he was talking about intelligence,
Yeah.
right? But really, it's conscious. If you're conscious of what you're talking about, lots of intelligent people talk about other people and gossip, they just haven't shifted their brain. So my husband and I started to shift that. I'm an ideas person anyway, and we started to talk about things that we would choose. Have you ever had those, like, if we win the lotto conversation? And literally adding to it, like, so if the topic for the day, my husband recently, because he's been watching Yellowstone, thinks he wants a ranch, right? Yeah. So, he looked on YouTube and there's all these videos you can watch of ranches, big ranches that are for sale everywhere. Well, we found one. So then the conversation is about the ranch. Well, what would you do if you were going to do this or that with that ranch? Like, would you have cows, let's say, for example, or would you turn that building into a retreat center? So we would start to fill our days with these conversations. And before the end of the day, that ranch was already, it wasn't that we wanted it. We had already experienced it.
Yes.
And realized what else we might choose, things that we had never dreamed of that we might choose, we chose during that day. And so the day would end up feeling light and fun and effervescent, as opposed to like stale and, boring. So in that state of choosing, even if it's pretend, the feeling is shifted with it. You're just not a victim. You're just not, I don't know what the words are.
I know exactly what you're saying, Liz. We had an offer. We had built this house that we're in now. It's like our dream house and everything. And we had another house to sell. And when we got the one and only offer at this point in time, it was an offer that didn't really feel good, but we took it because we didn't have any other offers. And the woman that ended up buying it was a little like crazy, and she had just a lot of contrast things. And we were just like, oh my gosh, I got to a point where I'm like, I don't want this woman buying my house, because this is a beautiful house. This is where we've had just this joy and this love, and counsel came through in that house. Counsel was born in that house. I was like, I don't want this woman having my house. But as a seller, there was nothing I could do. So I turned my focus and attention, and my husband felt the same way. And I'm like, you know what? Let's focus back on our new house. Let's just create an idea of all the outrageous things that we want to do in this house. And we're not going to do it today, but over time, what would we like to do? And so we started talking about putting beams on the ceilings, and the different gazebo that we'll put in the backyard, and putting this beautiful tile up the fireplace, and the way we wanted to decorate our room. We were just in this high vibe place, and it just felt really good, and it got us off the topic of this crazy buyer, right? And so we kept, like, he would come to me and go, what do you think about this? What do you think about that idea? And what we could do here is extend this, and let's put a fire pit. And, it just creates this excitement. We raised our vibe, and we just totally disconnected from the idea of this woman buying this house, right? And so we signed the papers, let it go. They did not get funded. The deal fell through. The very next day, we got a better offer, full price offer, on a lovely couple that we haven't met. And it needs to be that way when you're selling a house, especially if you're working with a realtor. We met the other buyer because she came to our house, and it was very, like, really weird. So it's everything that we wanted it to be, but by pushing against what we didn't want, by choosing to change our focus and choosing to talk about things that pleased us, it totally changed everything. And it even changed the vibration of what I already thought was a done deal. I made peace with it, and boom, everything shifted.
Yeah, we're always saying, what you push against pushes back at you,
Mm-hmm.
and what you pull against pulls back at you. So that whole idea of you've got your mind off of it, you went on to something else that felt so much better. There's no more push or pull. It just sort of sorts itself out.
Yeah.
I had a situation where I had to sell my brother's house, and it's just up the street here. And he died, and I had to handle his estate. And man, I suffered about that. for almost 2 years. I've got the school tool that could change it if I thought about it. But I found myself saying it's hard. This is so hard. The market and this and that. And then one day, of course, I used our Cognomovement ball and I changed it. Right. And in that moment, in the changing of it, a whole new world opened up. I called this person and that person led me to this person. We found this realtor and he had this idea of selling it for way more than, we'd ever thought. And then by the end of the day, there were offers, and just that tiny, tiny shift changed everything literally instantly.
Mm-hmm.
And within a couple of weeks, the house was sold and it was all done, and it was very, very easy. But that tension about it, that talking about it, this is hard. This is, it's going to be hard. There's all these issues, the market. None of that turned out to be actually true.
Yeah.
Not one word of it. So I know we've got to close here in just a minute, but would you talk about that for a second, Christy, about the words that we're saying a lot of times are absolutely, I don't want to say a lie, but they're just not accurate.
Well, our words matter. I mean, our words have creative power, and there just is nothing else more true than our consciousness creates our reality. And it just over and over and over. I mean, thousands and thousands of books have been written. I've written 7 of them, about how our energy, our consciousness, our what we say, what we think, what we visualize, what we're, vibrating in our emotions, it creates our reality. And if we do not feel good when we say something, then it's up to us to shift those words, because we create from our words. If we say, I can't do something, and our energy constricts, then we don't feel good and we can't be opened up to the possibilities. But when we shift our language and we feel good about it, I had a client years ago that said, I'm so upset, when she got on a call with me, and why? And she goes, my friend just told me that she's got an all expense paid trip to Hawaii, and I'm just so mad. And I go, why would you be mad about that? She said, because I can't afford it. And I go, what do you mean? It's an all expense paid. She goes, well, I had to get myself there. I have to pay for the plane ticket and I just can't afford it. And I said, stop saying, it's one of the first words in the Watch Your Word program. Stop saying you can't afford. Tell yourself, well, I can't afford it. And she wanted to argue for this belief that she couldn't afford it. And I said, listen, what if you change that to, it's not a financial priority for me right now? And she goes, well, it's not, because I can't afford. Okay, but let's just let go of the can't afford and let yourself soften up that I would love to go. I would love to go to Maui. I would love to stay in that house. I would love to be able to take my friend up with that. Let yourself be open to that. I would love to do that. Buying a ticket right now to go to Maui is not a financial priority, but I love the offer. I so appreciate the offer. The very next day, her friend calls her back and says to her, hey, I have a non-refundable ticket that I need to use, and I have to use it within this time frame. It is exchangeable, so you could use it. You don't have to pay me. I've already used it. She literally got an all expense paid, including the airfare, because she shifted her energy. Yeah. Had she said, can't afford, can't go, can't afford, can't go, it wouldn't have opened up to her.
Yeah, absolutely. Just even the wondering, my favorite is, I wonder how I could afford that. Right? Asking no one in particular, I wonder how that might actually happen. One of our practitioners wanted to come to an event we had out here, and same thing, she just couldn't really justify. It's not that she couldn't afford the housing. And so she used that, got to neutral using Cognomovement, but then asked that question to no one in particular during her session. I wonder how. And somebody called her, a relative, and said, oh, I just happen to have, this apartment that's open during that time. Do you want to stay there for 100% free? Right?
Yeah.
But if you push against the idea that you can't, well, you can't.
Exactly.
And I think what you said, something that's really poignant, it changes the way you feel. Do you think that's the first way to tell? So we're telling people, go to watchyourwords.com and you can begin to learn how to do this. But do you think people could start with notice how it feels when you say that thing or think?
Absolutely. That's what the whole challenge is about. And that's what Watch Your Words is all about. It's like, say this word that you've been saying and then shift it to the other phrase and then see how you feel. It might be really subtle, but if you tell a difference, it's like they say that, it's like little small hinges, move big doors, right? So it's like, it's fine tuning, it's fine tuning, it's fine tuning. So every time you're dialing into what feels good and not dialing into what feels bad, it's making a difference in our energy. It makes a difference in what we create. So, we have the power. Nobody's stuffing words in and out of our mouths. We're the ones that choose to say what we want to say. And we're the ones that chooses to feel how we want to feel. So if we're going to choose to feel something, if we're going to choose to think something, if we're going to choose to say something, why not choose to say something that feels good so that you're actually creating more of what feels good?
And like you said, the council says it changes your brain.
Mm-hmm.
It changes your brain. We know that for sure. In our work, we've done many brain scans, and it absolutely changes your brain. It changes your life. It changes your body. Words matter. And the way those words feel matter more than anything. So, Bill, let's thank our guest, Christy Whitman.
Can I say something really quick before we say goodbye? I have a client I referred to you guys, and she became a Cognomovement practitioner. I'm not going to say her full name, but she went to your event and she said it was just absolutely wonderful, totally professional, just really gained a lot of insight. So I want to thank you both for taking care of her and for what you're doing in the world.
Yeah, we know who that is, and we had a lovely time with her as well. She was incredible.
She's a hoot. Yeah.
Yeah, she was so much fun.
That's great. That was great. Everybody, watchyourwords.com. It's free. Go take the course. 25,000 other people have changed their lives with it. And Christy Whitman as well with channeling sessions. I think there's a waiting list on that, but reach out and see about activating your pleasure center. All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Liz.
All right. Thanks for being here, Bill. Thanks so much, Christy. We'll definitely have to have you back and have another chat. So everybody, if you're listening, please reach out to us at info@cognomovement.com if you have any questions. We answer. We really, really do. Until then, everybody in UK Health Radio land and everywhere around the world, be safe and be well, and we'll see you all again next week. Thanks for being here with us on the New Life Perspective radio show. For more information or to find out more about the work that Bill and I do, please visit us at cognomovement.com or email us at info@cognomovement.com. See you again soon.